Hi, it's Stephen Gandolfi coming to you yet again from the tasting room here at Westport Whiskey and Wine. If you can tell, I'm a little under the weather this week, so we're going to try to fly through and address this as quickly as possible so I don't cough on JJ too much and get him sick again. First things first, it's Labor Day week. Monday, we're going to have abbreviated hours. We'll only be open from 10 to 4. Wednesday night, we've got a bourbon tasting with Dropelman from Herr Ln. Seats are $10, I believe. More information about that on the website. Still wide open, but should be a pretty good tasting. And then Thursday night for bar night, we'll have Mr. Brauner here from Buzzards Roost, and he'll be talking about his rise and inside of models and just kind of hanging out, and we'll be doing pours. I think that's it for events next week. On to this week's flight. We're doing 101 proof bourbons. And technically this isn't a bourbon, but we'll get to that in due time. We're going to start off here with Ezra Brooks, 7-year-old, 101 proof. Now, until last year's Ezra Brooks 7-year barrel proof, the annual release from Lux Row was always 101 proof. This year's, or the year that we've got here in particular, which I believe is 2017, is a pretty classic example of what that style was. Heaven Hill source, 7 years old, doesn't quite evoke the old 6-year-old bottled in bond. In fact, it's a little bit more spicy. Rye is certainly in play here on the palate. It is a high rye, I think 12%. There's some vanilla, caramel, and a distinctly like boozy, warming finish on it. I actually think it's a really brave whiskey, and I kind of wish they would go back to these 101s as well. They just had a little bit more mellow body. But notwithstanding, we'll move on to Johnny Drum, private stock. Historically there was the green label and the black label, but I think this is the only thing that you can get from Willett these days in the way of Johnny Drum. And Johnny Drum, private stock, probably one of my favorite whiskeys from the Willett lineup. I know a lot of people gravitate towards the pot still, but I just find this one has a little bit more bold kind of character. I get a distinct Perique tobacco character on the nose, and then follows up with some lovely spicy, leathery kind of characters on the palate, and that tobacco persists as well with little bursts of brown sugar. It reminds me of a little bit more reserved version of Old Grandad 114, those big kind of spicy brown sugar leather tobacco notes, but in a richer, smoother palate and just kind of more easily approachable. Next step, Turkey 101. I'm not going to give you tasting notes for Turkey 101. Turkey 101 is the least expensive whiskey on this flight, and it should be on everybody's bar at home. It's $25.99. This year's batch has like 8 and 10-year-olds, and I think 13-year-old stuff blended into it. It's so damn good. You should be drinking it right now. You should be watching me and drinking Turkey 101, and we're going to go right on and talk about Yellowstone. Yellowstone has done these LTD whiskeys for the last few years, and they're still using, as far as I know, the same barrels that they have used for the last 3 years. So they started off with a non-charred wine barrel for 2016. 2017, they charred the wine barrels. 2018, they went back and I think scraped and refreshed and recharred them. And it's a blend of 4 to 12-year-old whiskeys. The youngest one is probably their own, which is something like a 75% corn, 12% rye, 13% barley. Perhaps I transposed the barley and the rye there, but it's another high rye whiskey. And this, to me, is a beautiful after-dinner kind of whiskey. Can't call it a bourbon because of the barrel finish, but it is raspberry, brownie, kind of rich, like when you get those brandied cherries as a cocktail garnish, those sort of notes. But just big, punchy, warming, sweet whiskey. I think maybe a little bit more cold weather sort of drinking, not quite as like light and spicy as some of these other guys for springtime or summertime into fall drinking, but a good way to round out this flight. This flight, which would normally be $22.20, is going to be $15 this week. So come in, check out our Heaven Hill event, see us with Buzzards Roost on Thursday, and of course try some 101 whiskeys.